really an opera about one of the most famous weird stories in New Zealand recent history. I mean, it's such an amazing idea. I'd got to the stage, and this was only a couple of days after I'd heard about it.
Yeah.
I got to the stage where I couldn't countenance not doing a documentary about it. So I was so grateful that you said yes.
And I was so excited to be thought of. And it was just, but straight away, as soon as you said there's going to be an opera written about this crazy incident that, you know, this rampant British family that had travelled around New Zealand causing chaos over this particular summer. And when you said, do you think there's anything in that to follow this? And when I was like, how can there not be something to follow in this? Like, who comes up with an opera about a bunch of tourists that everybody in New Zealand at the time, to be fair, hated and wanted gone? The first rehearsal we went to where we heard samples of the songs and how it's really hard when you're in the room. It's probably a bit like you at the moment, sitting behind the camera, trying not to laugh at some of the stories. But we heard some of those songs and we were literally, do you remember, just standing there just trying not to laugh out loud because the songs, the ideas of the songs were so funny. And then, thank God, we were actually kind of filming during a pandemic because we all had masks on, so they couldn't see us. But I was looking at your eyes over the top of the mask and then trying not, like, our camera person was standing there trying not to laugh and he's trying not to shake the camera because he's laughing. And it was just
very
such a joy.
difficult not to crack up. And also, on the flip side of that coin was the intense feeling just hearing the voices gave you.
Oh, my gosh.
Like, it really does hit you.
I think
in the gut.
When you don't get to be normally around, if you're only seeing a performance on stage and you're not privy to those kind of behind the scenes rehearsals, and then you hear the magic of all of those artists and you hear music and the swelling of voices and all the rest of it, and you get, it's quite, you get beautiful goosebumps, and it's a real privilege. And opera were incredibly generous with that.
Parts of the shoot, technically, you've got a couple of neat tricks up your sleeve, haven't you, Jo?
I do. My favourite parts there were two things. One of them was I hate documentaries where people are telling a story but they're doing this off camera and they're telling the story to the person sitting there. And for this story, it felt like we were surrounded by professional opera singers and performers and what have you, but doing this, like eyeing a camera and staring down the barrel of the camera. She can do it because she's been a broadcaster for years and you're used to doing it. But when you're trying to tell a story and somebody's asking you questions off camera, your eye line immediately wants to do that and talk to the person.
Correct.
So we got a little contraption called an eye to me, which is like kind of think of like one of those, what were those things you made at school where you put two mirrors on and you could look in one end, you could see out something up the top. Oh, my God, what are they called?
Like a homemade periscope.
Yes, so one of those, but essentially one of those but on its side, off the side of the camera.
During that Jennifer Ward-Leyland was Te Atamira was involved, was another big moment for us. So a big theme in the documentary that came through in the end was this story was a reflection on how Kiwis feel about ourselves. I won't say any more than that, but that's one of the themes that you'll find in the doco. And then they did a bunch of dining and dashing from restaurants.
Put glass and ants in food and claimed that, they wouldn't pay for their meals.
One of them ended up in court. I mean, nobody's excusing their bad behaviour. That's the bit we all remember.
Yeah.
But I think one of the things that the opera brings up is that, let's just say there were other people involved who didn't behave that well either.
And they could be us. Not us, but like I'm talking about the collective us.